All right, we're back with Talking the Neighborhoods. I'm Joe Heisler, your host, and in the second half, sticking with city politics, well, no issue has garnered bigger headlines of late than the whole issue of residency, the policy that requires at least certain city employees to live within the city of Boston. Others are exempted by state law, but as a expose, a lead story, investigatory piece in the Globe showed on Sunday, many employees seem to be flouting the law that requires them to live in the city. It's, from the Boston Residency Commission, which was appointed a volunteer board to monitor us. Eileen Boyle joins us, and nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Is it an impossible task, as the Globe seemed to kind of roll out there? It's you have one investigator, if I understand correctly, and you have over 18,000 city employees, not all of whom are subject to this, but is it an impossible task? How have you done it? How have you managed the last few years here?
Well, it's not impossible. It's interesting because over the 20 years that we have had cases brought before us, it has fluctuated with different departments. Many of our cases that are presented to us seem to be coming from drop-a-dimes. They're all drop-a-dimes that go to the they go to the Human Resource Department. Sadly, we've had cases where there's a separation in a marriage and someone's angry and they drop a dime. Right. There's been other coworkers that feel as though they were overlooked and not gotten the promotions, and there's drop a dimes there. And then there's legitimate cases where employees are just upset because they're following the rules
and somebody
else isn't, and that's majority of the cases.
Well, and in principle, it's a great idea, but do you feel like sometimes, because of that, because only, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that you only investigate when you get a complaint, is that correct?
Correct.
That you're somehow being kind of used or not respected, perhaps we should say. Correct.
Some of those cases that do come before us, we wonder why the department heads are not handling the situation. One of the more recent cases is two firefighters that Fox News actually broadcasted on Election Day in November, where they not only committed voter fraud, they committed residency fraud. And one of the questions that I hope to work with the mayor on is, why isn't the legal department handling these cases? Why are those cases coming in front of the Compliance Commission? They should be handled internally and taken care of through the mayor's office, through the legal department.
But do you feel that the system that's in place now is capable or prepared? To kind of handle, the numbers were, or if the Globe story is correct, it's staggering.
Right.
Just amongst the top management, half or nearly half of those who are expected to live in the city do not. And of course, then there's all kinds of other technical questions as to how much time you can give somebody to move in, et cetera, et cetera. But leaving that aside, do you feel the Boston Residency Commission is the best vehicle or the appropriate vehicle to kind of deal with this? And is it necessary anymore?
No, I believe it definitely is necessary. It definitely has stabilized the neighborhoods in Boston. We have people that actually care. Now that we see another generation of young people that are taking these jobs that have grown up in the city. Some of them are moving into the city a year prior to try and get these jobs. There definitely is a vested interest, and we hope that if we can change the exemption that the teachers have, that would actually even further increase, stabilize, because I think one of the biggest problems we have is still the schools.
And by and large, not all, but as I understand it, at least teachers, instructors, so to speak, that's governed by state law. So really, you have no control over that.
But we could change legislation. I mean, it was Governor Dukakis that changed that when he ran for president. And, you know, he just was, wanted to make sure that he had the backing of the teachers union. You know, there's no reason why we can't change.
So there's no reason we can't
There's no
go back.
reason why we can't change that. I mean, I don't know why cities, their own cities and towns can't determine what they want to do with their own city employees. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
But, and I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, and but I'm reading Adrian Walker's story today, but it defeats the purpose. It's not needed anymore.
No, it's definitely needed.
You know, people want to live in the city. It's not like you have to keep them in the city or in order that, and that potentially, you know, you're eliminating some very good people that you should want. People, the best candidate for the job, I think.
No, there are plenty of great candidates that, I mean, I know the mayor appointed, you know, Joe Finn, who I know, you know, his boys actually played hockey with my boys. And I think he's a great guy, but I mean, it would have been nice if he had stayed in the city, you know, his duration of his
and
career.
he says that he's moving back, or the mayor said he is.
That's great, you know, because I know his son, who is also on the fire department. I don't know when he got on, probably a year or so ago, you know, and, you know, I question, you know, it's great that his son got on, but how many sons didn't get, or daughters didn't get on that have been living in the city their whole life? You know, I question that. And there are a lot of people out there that are wondering, like, why isn't my child getting on, you know, who served in the military,
double
who
standard.
has...
There's some kind of double standard.
Exactly.
Would you prefer, and of course, you know, because to a certain extent, you're put in this position and asked to enforce this, but you only have one investigator and you only respond to complaints. Would you like to see stricter enforcement of it?
Absolutely. I actually wrote a letter to the mayor.
What would you suggest?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious.
Right. Well, I wrote a letter to the mayor actually on April 9th, and some of the things that I had asked him through Save Our City, which is an organization that was started up through Rosemary Powers and a group of advocates. And one of the things that we've noticed over the 20 years on the Compliance Commission is that I would like to go back to full duration of employment, actually. This 10-year rule.
Explain.
Well, back in 2008, Mayor Menino changed the rules for some employees. A lot of them, mostly, it's the union bargaining, at the union bargaining table, which he didn't even have to do. There was no reason. There's no financial reason, nothing. And I still don't understand why he did it. But I would love to see it reinforced to full duration of employment, because I know now anyone that's getting any of these jobs, 10 years out, they're only 35. So, and they're not going to retire till they're 60, say, you know, if they're police and fire.
Right.
So they're going to spend less time living in the city than out if they decide to leave. I hope they stay. And one of the things is full duration of employment I'd like to see, but those that do leave after the 10 years, don't promote them. They get no promotions. You know, if you
So
leave,
you could continue.
You leave. You could, if you decide to leave after the 10 years,
So
if the
be
mayor
it.
doesn't want to change that ruling, then no promotions for you. Okay. One of the other things is we don't have the authority to fire anyone on the commission. But in the past, when we have found someone out of compliance, they are fired by their department head, and 1 year later, they can get their job back. That's wrong. They have committed fraud. They've been caught, and the excuse is that, well, they've been trained. No. We don't need anybody that's looking over their shoulder, and, you know, we don't need to rehire those people. There are 150 other applicants waiting in line to get those jobs. Also, even the Boston Public Schools, there are students that have been caught not living in the city.
Right. Yep.
Why aren't we charging them full tuition for the year?
Well, and I believe actually by law they're supposed to. Okay,
Right.
now here's a question. We've got just a few minutes left. I want to make sure. What would you like to see that's done? Now, because if you're looking at, if this is correct, and again, it's a newspaper story, but by and large, there's no reason to disbelieve it. You know, some of the top people in the city of Boston, top managers, and several that Marty Walsh has hired, would you have him fire them?
Well,
What would you, and
I know. I would like him to really shake up these departments. And I mean, I have neighbors that are well qualified, you know, firefighters who are engineers too. You know, I mean, they're well qualified for these department head positions. Unfortunately,
So there's no lack of talent in your mind?
No, there isn't any lack of talent, and I think the problem is that Boston is Boston, and you know, everybody kind of like wink, wink, pat your back, pat someone on the back, you know, I'll make sure you get the job. And in some situations that's okay, but I think there are people that are qualified and they're overlooked because, you know, it's the good old boy network. You know, everybody's making sure that they're taking care of each other.
Well, clearly, you know, and I don't know if you can make this assumption, but Mayor Menino wasn't, you know, too committed to it, would you say? And what about this new guy? Of course, he's a neighbor of yours,
Yes,
as you
he is.
mentioned, and you just said hi on the way out. Is he committed to making this work? What
We'll
was
see.
his
We'll
response
see.
to your letter? Did he respond?
He did not respond to my letter, unfortunately. I would like him to respond to that. I mean, he has friends in legislative up at the State House. You know, let's see if we can change the legislation for the teachers. You know, I mean, that's a huge, I know that's something that's, you know, politically can be taxing on any politician, but I'd love to see that happen. I mean, I would even like to see Adrian Walker, who is another neighbor of mine.
Right, I was
I
gonna say,
would
he
like
lives
to
on
take his
Savin
hand
Hill as
and
well.
we can go down to, you know, our local McConnell Park and down the beach, and I will point out all the people who are either city workers or state workers who make our neighborhood a wonderful place to live.
It is a wonderful neighborhood.
You know. So, you know, I mean, that's proof right
Well,
there.
it sounds like it's, you know, given that and somewhat of a thankless job. Maybe that's an overstatement, but I don't think so.
No, it's,
You've been doing this for
yeah, 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
When's
20
your term up?
I don't know. Hopefully I'll stick around.
No, these are, it's a volunteer, it's not, it's
No,
an
it's a
unpaid
volunteer,
commission appointed by the mayor.
Yes.
And if I understand correctly, most of the people on it were originally appointed when it was first created.
Right,
So-
we've had a little changeover, but most of us are, yeah,
Well,
credit history.
and so what are you looking for? We've got just a minute or two left as we go
I
forward here.
want-
Now,
yeah.
is it
Yeah.
just a headline in yesterday's paper and
no.
goes away? Is there an attempt to kind of hold people's feet to the fire? Adrian Walker was talking about Willie Gross, the new superintendent, who people are raving about. But guess what? He lives in Milton.
Yeah, I was disappointed
What are we
too.
going to do?
Right. We have a lot of people that will be retiring. You know, we have a whole group of baby boomers that will be retiring. And I'm hoping when that cycle comes full circle, all the people that are now being hired and those that are in their 40s will stay committed to Boston, committed to the taxpayers of Boston. They have to remember who is paying their salary and their retirement, you know, and their health care also. And I would like to see them, you know, because we knew that this was going to be a long-term venture for everybody that was invested in Save Our City. And, you know, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping if the mayor can't, you know, and I understand that, he's not going to let all these department heads go, but he needs to a little deeper into, you know, ask around, come and talk to us at the Compliance Commission.
Well, and I'm sure he will after he watches this. You know, and lastly, of course, I remember when this issue, and you know, it's been in play for a while. But when it first came up, and you mentioned Save Our City, you know, it really evoked some very strong some passion, some strong emotions. Is there still that kind of support for this issue out there?
Absolutely.
That there is it a you know, and Marty Walsh
Yep.
talked about the fact that when he initially asked for an exemption of I don't know,
A
up
full
to,
exemption of
for
department heads.
100, he said
Yep.
you know, he got a lot of pushback.
Yeah,
and,
the City Hall was flooded with phone calls. All city councilors were, the phone was
not
ringing
just
off the
a
hook.
half dozen. That,
Nope, it was, and the thing is that I first announced it because I happen to be president of Columbia Savin Hill Civic Association, and I announced it at our monthly meeting, and I asked everybody, get the word out, you know, tell everybody, and I've been stopped probably 4 or 5 times in our local supermarket with neighbors and people that I haven't seen, you know, people who are police and firefighters, people who are custodians.
And the opposite side too. Why are you picking on my Johnny, who you know, been waiting for getting any of that?
Oh, no. I think we've come full circle. See, I think that's where the growth has happened. I think in the beginning oh my goodness, we got barraged by that. A lot of people were very angry with us, but now I think 99% of people understand. Because I think people understand too that no one is forced to take that job. You know, we heard a lot of that in the early 1990s. You know, you can't force, like, no, we're not forcing anybody to take a job. If you take this job, these are the rules.
But it's an issue that's not going to go away, and we'll be hearing more about it.
Right.
If Eileen Boyle and the Boston Residency Commission has anything to say about it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us tonight. Again, Eileen Boyle is one of the members of the Boston Residency Commission, charged with enforcing or investigating at least violations of the Boston Residency Ordinance. A troubling issue, perhaps more so for Mayor Marty Walsh, who's looking to fill some positions, and now he has some friends and neighbors looking over his shoulder. Again, I want to thank Marty Walsh for coming in earlier, and Eileen Boyle. You're watching Talk to the Neighborhoods. We're here tonight and every Monday night from 8 to 9. We'll be back next week at the same time. Until then, for the entire staff and crew here at BNN, I'm Joe Heisler, your host. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening, and good night.